Hello, this is Bob with Goosky Helicopters, and what we got in front of us is the legendary Goosky S2 Legend, and 200 size class helicopter. And this helicopter is kind of taking the 200 size market for helicopters by storm. And a lot of some of the best pilots in the world are flying this helicopter now, and they're really enjoying it. Some of them have made the comments that they normally like to fly the bigger helicopters and not too fond of the smaller ones. But once they get their hands on the Goosky Legend S2, they fall in love with the helicopter because it flies much bigger than it is. It's very stable. It's for beginners, intermediates, and 3D pilots. And so you'll be able to enjoy it no matter what your skill level is. Another nice aspect of this, it can be set up with a rescue, and that makes it very nice for the beginners. If they get into trouble, hit the rescue, and you'll be able to save yourself a crash or give you some time to get reorientated. So that's another nice aspect of the heli. But what I thought we would do is take the canopy off today and talk a little bit about maybe making some repairs or just get more familiar with what's under the hood. And so we're going to stop and just talk a little bit about some repairs that you might need to make and or just to get familiar more with the helicopter. So as you can look back here, you can see that we got the tail boom wrap here. We're excited about that. Got some nice bling on that. And we turn over here on the other side. And you'll be able to see back here on the tail that we got, instead of the black tail blades there, we got the tail blades that will match the coat of the canopy. So that's a nice touch there from Goosky with some decals to dress things up. So we'll get the helicopter back in position, and we'll talk a little bit about some repair works. We'll start here in the back. As you can see back here, we got the motor back here, and if you happen to damage the tail boom, it's a pretty easy fix to get repaired. Just take these 4 screws on this side, loosen those. 4 screws on the other side, loosen that. Take this screw out right here. That will allow you to be able to pull the tail boom out. And you'll need to detach the motor from back here off the tail boom. And once you get that off, you'll be able to pull the wires through and get that pulled through. And you'll be able to make your repairs. And but now one of the things that we do want to look at this, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and kind of look and zoom in a little bit up here on the front of the helicopter and kind of give you an idea of looking at this ESC that's on the front here. Now the wires that are going to go through the tail boom, you'll fish the wires through the tail boom back here, and it'll come back up here to the ESC at the front of the helicopter. And you'll see there are 3 screws that are up here that hold the 3 wires that go to the tail. Now you want to make sure that you put those wires exactly back in the same place that they are here, so that you'll be able to have the motor turn in the right direction. If you get those swapped around, the motor will turn in the wrong direction. That's something that you don't want. So mark these wires here however you want to mark them. I use some white out and just put 1 slash on one and 2 slashes on another one and left the other one blank. And that way I'll be able to get the wires back in its proper place. This is the Bluetooth hookup. What I needed to do was just take and pull this off of the control panel. And one of the things you are going to have to do in order to get to these screws here is you're going to have to take this control panel off here. Now it's not as complicated as it looks, but it does take some time to do. There are 4 screws that are up here on the top. You'll want to take and loosen all of these screws. You don't want to take them out. Just loosen them up enough to where that they detach themselves from the ESC. And you'll want to pull this straight up. Now I didn't find that I had to take any of these wires out whenever I had to replace my tail boom. I've done that once. And all I did was just take the wire from the Bluetooth off, and that gave me just a little bit more wiggle room in there to get this up. Then I just pulled these wires off, detached the zip ties that are on there, fished it back through, put another tail boom on, ran the wires back through the tail boom, brought it back up here and put those wires back on the ESC right in the same order that they were in, and we're able to make the repair for the tail boom. Now, if you're doing the main shaft, we want to look at a couple of things on the main shaft, and we'll zoom back out here, and we'll look at the main shaft, and we'll kind of turn the helicopter over, and you'll see that there's a screw on the bottom part here, and we'll need to undo that and take that off. You'll want to put that back in with some Loctite, and then I want to spin the motor here so that you can see there's some grub screws in here that will need to be taken off. There is one there. And you'll spin the helicopter around, and on the other side there's one on the other side. You want to take both of those off. Once you get those off, there is a flat spot on the main shaft, and those grub screws will go into that, so make sure that you get that lined up perfectly. and then put those back in with Loctite, and you'll be ready to go with that part of it. Then up here on the top, what you'll want to do is you'll want to take this screw and loosen that screw, and on the other side, loosen that screw. And then you'll want to, in order to pull the swash plate out, because you'll want to check the feathering shaft as well to make sure that it's not, it hasn't been damaged. But what you'll want to do is, and what I found the best way to do instead of trying to get this off, was I just took a screwdriver here in the back, flathead screwdriver, and pull that off of the swash plate. Once I got that off of the swash plate, then I was able to just take and gently pull these off on both sides. And something else I did want to let you know about these control rods here is that the diameter of the hole in the front of this is smaller than the one in the back. So you want to make sure the larger diameter of the control arm is facing backwards as it goes on to the ball length there, and it'll snap into place. But what I did was just take all three of these off, and then you're able to take and pull the entire main shaft along with the upper head and pull that all out and be able to get to your main shaft. Also, the screw that's on here at the top here, you'll want to also take that out, and then that way you'll be able to detach the main shaft and get that replaced. Now, if you're needing to replace the feathering shaft up here, you want to be careful about the washers. There are inner and outer races up there, and there's bearings that are in there. Also, there are several washers that are in here. You want to make sure that you're being really careful with the way in which you take and pull this apart. And if you have to, if the washers do come out, you want to make sure that you understand the order in which they went in there. You can go to the Goosky website, pick up the blueprints for this, and it'll give you the proper washers in which directions they go as you make your feathering shaft repair. So you want to take and undo both of these screws on both sides with two 1.5 millimeter wrenches, and pull that out, pull your feathering shaft out, slide that back in, replace it, and you'll be ready to go. You will need to take these, obviously, take these off on both sides in order to get to that. Now, you want to be careful as well. If you have to completely detach this, be careful with this part here, because there are some small washers that are on the back side of this that you'll want to make sure that you get back in place. Those are very important. So you want to make sure that you watch carefully with that. Also, like I said about the control panel, you want to make sure that you leave those 4 screws that are in place there. There are some pins on the inside of the control box up here that will help you guide that control box back into place, along with your motor or your battery wire lead up here at the front is grooved, so you'll be able to get that set in place, and it'll all set back in place. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about is replacing a servo. If you do have to come in and replace the servo on this side is very easy to get to, and you can see that the screws are on the outside there, and you're able to get to the screws on there. The one that's a little more difficult is the one that's on this side, and you can see that there is a screw that is on the inside here that you're going to have to get to. Let me see if I can get it focused in there. Okay, you can see that screw now. That's attached to the frame, and you'll need to take that out. Now, you will need to take off the top part here in order to get to that screw to be able to take it off, to take this servo off. So you will need to raise up the control box to get to that with your 1.5 millimeter tool to get inside there to get that loosened up, to get that off. So that one there is a little more difficult to get to, but it's certainly doable. And you just take that off, take the servo out, and then put your servo back on, and you'll be able to get that all back in place there, and then put your control panel back on there. As you can see, the servo on this side here, once again, is easy to get to and to replace. Get your zip ties off, put the and make sure that you mark in the proper place on the control panel where your servo wires go. And you got channels 1, 2, and 3 marked on this, and you'll be able to get that in there and get them back in the right place there. So I just wanted to take the time to kind of look at the helicopter with the canopy off, make just a few comments of some things that are a pretty normal thing to break in case you do have a crash, and give you just a few tips and ideas on how you might be able to get those repaired. And like I say, this helicopter has really been a joy to fly. It just flies so good and so stable. And like I say, it's good for beginners and intermediates and advanced pilots. And we've got some incredible names. Ben Storick, Rasmus is flying this helicopter. Jordan Horowitz is flying this helicopter, and they're just loving it because it just flies much bigger than it is. So once again, thank you, Goosky, Frank Lee, and the entire Goosky team for giving us an opportunity to be involved in the process of this helicopter getting onto the market. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next video.